So I just wanted to kind of go through some of the parts and whatnot that I got when I received the Sidewinder kit, as well as what I received from Cutter, Harley Davidson, and after I had sent it to Low Range to modify, and then Low Range sent it to me. This is the 44mm Screaming Eagle carburetor that Cutter sells. And basically I guess this would be where the throttle cable goes, so I'm not sure entirely what this is called, but here's your throttle down here that rotates, and so your cable mounts in up here at this top piece. So they modified that. I'm assuming they rejet it. I'm not entirely certain what they did inside. So the cable mounts here, bolts onto that, and then the cable kind of comes around through this groove and into this bottom hole behind that spring right there. The strange thing is, and I'm not entirely certain what happened here, but basically there's a couple things. Like, I'm not sure what this hose that goes here is just kind of dangling. It came connected like that from either Cutter or potentially Low Range. Not sure if you're supposed to leave it on there or if you're supposed to cap it. I'm assuming this is where the regulator fuel line plugs in off of here. So the one that they show in the instructions with this little filter, I'm assuming this line is what goes to here. And the other thing is all of the hardware for the choke cable was already installed. So I'll get the knife out of the way there. So when I read the instructions, it did say if you order the 44mm Screaming Eagle from Cutter, that you will need to buy all of the choke cable accessories, I guess. This stuff does not come with the kit, but I wasn't aware that it came with the carburetor. So I guess maybe I may need to reread it, or it was just confusing when I did read it. So essentially, I mean, it's not a huge deal because it wasn't entirely expensive. The seal and ring, you will need that, and that's the seal that basically will seal the carb into the Sidewinder. It's this little rubber piece right here. I already put mine on. When you get that kit, you get two of these black rings. Lewis from Sidewinder was kind enough to send me one to make sure everything fit up right. The ones that you get from Cutter seem to be a tad smaller, but they fit on there nice and snug. So I also I like the black on the black, and Lewis is a great guy. The one he sent me was gray, so I just thought the black would look a little bit cooler. So I went with the one that I ordered from Cutter, so I'll probably end up sending that back to Lewis. Overall, here basically, the Screaming Eagle carb, you're looking at $257, and then the seal ring kit, you know, $690. But all the rest of this stuff, the spring enrichener, starter valve, cap, cable seal, starter cap, Carb XL, cable guide, I don't think you need all that stuff. I mean, it wasn't entirely expensive. It's all, you know, relatively under $6 here, but again, and maybe you can call Cutter and ask them if this all of this carburetor, or sorry, the choke cable accessories come with the carb when you order it. I didn't call, I just ordered online based on the product numbers that are in the instructions for the Sidewinder on Low Range's site. Overall, looks great. First impressions was like, wow, this is really cool. The Sidewinder kit, it basically came like that. I did put on the little seal right there. It came with this filter, which is different than what you see in the pictures, and then it also came with the little filter here. It came with this extra cable, or I'm sorry, hose. I'm assuming this hose is maybe for the distributor vacuum, so I'll have to figure that one out. Of course, you got your hardware that bolts it down. There's the gasket, all of your little vacuum things. There's 14 of them, or I think 1, 2, 3, 15 total little caps here. So I'm assuming you'll need to use all of those. Not entirely certain what this is or what that's for. This looks like it's your little, I don't know, I don't see like a, I think this is for your throttle cable, but I don't see like a set. Oh, I see how it is. So yeah, there's this little guy here that comes with the Sidewinder kit, which is your throttle cable stop, I guess it's called, or something like that, which goes, you know, which will go basically in there once the cable is hooked up. And then of course you get your choke cable that came with the Sidewinder. First impressions of the Sidewinder kit itself, it's really clean. It's really nice. It isn't silver or whatever. It looks like they did powder coat this, so it's really nice. Overall, let's see here. Take a look at it like this, maybe. Assuming, because this is how it'll install on the Samurai. The seal was already on here. This was basically all bolted up, so I believe I'll just have to, you know, take out these bolts in order to mount the carb inside there. So it looks like, what is that? Little serial number. Kind of see it says Sidewinder there a little bit. Not sure what this guy is. If that's just, I don't know. I don't know entirely what that is. Yeah, overall it looks really clean. There were a couple of questions, and I'll figure this out obviously when I install it, and you'll see that then. In regards to the inlet and outlet, as to which one is which, and I'll record some of that when I get to installing that. And I've talked to Lewis several times on the phone. He's a really great guy, and overall, yeah, I'm excited to get this installed. Just wanted to kind of show you everything. Oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this. It looks like it's just some kind of grease or something. Maybe it's for the inside seals or something. So yeah, so this is the Sidewinder kit for a Suzuki Samurai in order to hook up your 44mm carb. And that's about it. Alright, so I think I got everything installed here on the Sidewinder with the 44mm CV carb. or Screaming Eagle, I guess. Just wanted to kind of go over a few things, the little things that I did, and just kind of a little bit more detail than some that I've seen before, as far as videos of these. So basically, some of the vacuum advance, let's go over that real quick. So I plugged this guy. This guy, it says to run up to your distributor, so I have that running there. It is kind of tight, but underneath here, actually on this housing, there is another one that I have sealed off, and it says if it's not running right when you're running off of this one, to run this line here underneath to this housing here on the Sidewinder. A few other little things. I gotta clean up some stuff, but overall, I just wanted to kind of go over the carburetor itself. Sorry, grab my flashlight here. So right here, you can see this is the throttle cable stop here. So you cut off the line, you put the stop on, put the set screw in, clip it in, and basically you have your that doesn't seem right. Oh, it slid off, that's why. What the heck? There we go. Oh shit, see, even that still doesn't. So it looks like it's actually open already a little bit. Might have to adjust this a little bit. So basically yeah, it's not sitting on the stop here. So I gotta adjust that maybe into the pedal or something. Vacuum line, so I plugged that one, plugged this guy right there, plugged that one. There's one on the front here, plug that guy, plug those two right there. There's two underneath there, so I plugged those two. It's kind of tricky to see, but up underneath here, there is basically this housing that's kind of, you can see there, I capped that one. So that housing is really close, and actually the Sidewinder sits right on top of that plastic cap there. As far as hoses go, so this is your basically from there on the fuel pump, you have your fuel line running into your regulator right there. Out of the regulator, it kind of hooks around and connects, so you can see kind of it hooking around into there, connects into there, and that's where it feeds in gas into your carburetor. Choke cable was actually easier to install than I thought it was going to be. It was a little tricky because you have to run your choke cable out here and then take apart the sleeve and all the stuff inside, and then assemble it, and then kind of slide it in there. And here you can see there's the nut that goes on. I think it's just like a plastic kind of nut that threads in there, so you just thread it in there and just kind of snug it up. At least that's what I did. As far as the choke cable itself, I have it running across here. It's just kind of sitting right here for now. I might have to get something to wrap it so it's not sitting on the head there and getting hot. I ran mine around right through there, basically. You can see which, if we come down in here, you can see, so here's my choke cable here. Seems to work fine. I haven't started it yet, so up under here you can see basically that's where it's going through the firewall there. There's a little rubber grommet that was already kind of sitting there, so I basically just utilized that. Lines up pretty nice with this guy here. And let's see what else. I'm gonna have to mess with the throttle cable because I don't want to start it and have the thing just revving like crazy. So I gotta look at that. There's the boot, or the little sleeve here that the carburetor slides into. This top was actually, that's capped as well. Okay, so one thing to note, so you can see down in there, there's that hose clamp, and that hose runs around basically to this, and when you pull that off down in there, it's kind of tricky to get to, but when you pull off the original one, you know, antifreeze is going to shoot out of there. So I just kind of had a little rubber cap in my hand, and I just kind of slid it over that until I got this all set, all mounted up, and then I kind of just did a little flip. So I mean, I got some antifreeze on there a little bit. I'll just have to rinse that off. But basically, the instructions say inlet and outlet and whatnot. It really doesn't matter from what I understand, and I've talked to the Sidewinder guy, and it basically just funnels through this aluminum piece here just to kind of keep it cool, basically. There wasn't any antifreeze when I pulled this one. That was empty. This one had some in it from the original lines, not these new lines. And basically, he said you could hook them up either way, doesn't really matter. So that's how I ran mine, just because this one was on that side and this one kind of had to hook down and under. So that made the most sense to me. The other thing is the bottom of the carburetor does have, you're probably never going to see it here. There is a little line on it that actually just dangles. I might have to make sure that that's not going to be hitting or rubbing up against anything hot. But basically it's an overflow in the event that the carburetor has too much fluid in it. And I guess it just overflows or dumps out the bottom. Which I guess that's how it works. So I think that's it. I'm going to make some final adjustments here and then try to fire it up. Alright, I'm going to give this a shot and try to fire it up real quick and see what happens. right, so basically after the initial start, which took a little bit, probably it was just because the gas had to get pumped in and whatnot, and it's pretty cold here. It's like 24 degrees maybe. Basically, what I had to do was basically the idle was really low, so I just basically turned the little adjustment screw right there out like 3 or 4 turns or something. Started it up, and at idle I was at like, initially I was like maybe at 800 RPMs, and then I turned it up, and then it was at like 2000 RPMs, which was way too high. So then I like basically turned it back till I got to around 1000 or 1500 RPMs. I noticed that everything was looking good, so I took it for a test drive. Drove great, super responsive. It's a heck of a lot peppier, and when I got home and I shut it off, it kind of like wanted to keep going. It was like ga-ga, 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 and then finally it stopped, you know. So I just basically turned down that idle just a little bit more, or that adjustment screw, and now I turn it on. The engine's still hot from the test drive, shut it off, and it shuts right off. So I think it's right in the right position and everything, so I'm just going to keep an eye on everything, go from there. I did end up taking that vacuum line, and instead of running this line here from the distributor around to this port, I did run it to the one that's right here on the bottom of this housing here, which is basically what is recommended if for some reason there's issues there. I don't really know what those issues would be. Maybe the issues were the sputtering and whatnot. I switched that over and then just adjusted that set screw, and everything was good to go. Overall, I'm really pleased with it. Still have some cleaning up here to do with the wiring and whatnot, but now I have a heck of a lot more room over here, and it's pretty tight here. If you're wondering, this here is just my thermostat for the electric fan. So it basically wires in and then comes around here and goes to this little sensor or temperature gauge here. I did clean up those wires a little bit and wrapped them in some stuff. And yeah, so that's basically it. It looks good, runs great, and yeah, I'm really happy with it.